Hi, I'm David Maldo, your virtual presenter course instructor. And in our last lesson, we learned how to move, resize, and crop our sources. But up till now, all of our sources have been in one scene. In this lesson, we're going to create our second scene with its own sources, and we're going to understand why we would want to do that. Now, for this lesson, I'm really assuming you've watched the previous lesson where we learned how to crop, move, and resize our sources. In this lesson, I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I'm going to be moving sources around a lot pretty quickly, and I'm not going to be explaining how I'm moving and resizing them. If you get lost, please just go back and watch the previous lesson. This lesson, we're assuming you know that, and we're going to focus on our scenes. So let's continue where we left off. So now it's time to learn about scenes. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, what's the point of having more scenes? I have my one scene, and it has all my sources in it. And if I want to add more sources, I could add more sources. If I want a different background, I can add another background image. And we've learned how to use our hide. I could hide this one and show the other one. So why not just put everything in this one scene? Great question. And there's two answers. One is it's just much easier to manage with scenes, which we'll see in a second. And the other is transitions, which we'll also see in a second. So let me explain first what I mean by easier to manage. Let's show how we do it the hard way without using a second scene. Let's say I want to have a different background. So we've learned how to do that. I have another image file here. I drag it in. I move it, as we've just learned, to the bottom layer. But I want the logo on the other side when I show this. I don't like it here. So now I'm going to drag my logo. And I don't like the way the webcam looks here. So now I need to unlock my webcam and move myself, make myself smaller. There we go. Okay, great. Now I'm happy with this library view. But wait a minute. Now I have to do another meeting and I want to go back to the old view. Okay, so unlock my camera, resize it, unlock the logo, move it over, and turn off the library image. Okay, we're back. I don't want to do that every time. So let's see how it works with scenes. First thing, let's go over and look at our scene panel, and let's name this scene. We haven't named it, it's just called scene. So right click, rename, and we're going to call this our office. And now let's make our second scene. We click the plus button, and we're going to call this scene library. So the first thing I want to do is drag over that library again. The second thing I want to do is add my webcam, just as we did a few lessons ago. I click the plus button, video capture device. Now, unlike last time, we don't have to create a new one. It's still in there. We've already created it in the earlier lesson. So I'm just going to add existing. There we go. And I'm going to have to, as we just learned, do my cropping. There we go. And let's add, finally, logo and put that where we want it. Great. So everything's locked down. And now you see we have two scenes, our office scene and our library scene. So if I want to switch back, instead of moving everything around like we did before, I just click here. Office, library, office, library. See how much more convenient that is? You could think of it any way you want. You could think of it as if there are movie sets or TV sets or stage in a theater, but the idea is you set up all your elements and then you just leave them. During meetings, you don't want to be unlocking sources and moving things around. It's awkward. You want to be focusing on your meeting, whatever your content is, whatever you're talking about, whatever you gathered people there today to learn. That's what you want to focus on, and just very simply switch between your scenes. You don't want to be focusing on working OBS. You want to master it and just do well in your meetings. So ideally, when you're all set up, you'll have a number of scenes, each with only a few sources in them, as opposed to just having one scene with all of your sources in that you have to manage all of the time. One final thing to know about scenes is they work with transitions. Now what I mean by that is, if, for example, I stay in this scene and I just switch my background by clicking the source, by unhiding the source, it just shows up. It's on and it's off. I can't make it fade in. But when you switch between scenes, and we're going to learn this in a later lesson, There's all sorts of transitions you can do. There's fades, there's swipes. The default is set here already as a fade at about 1/3 of a second. I'm just going to make it 3 seconds so you could see what's happening a little bit more obviously. When I switch from the office to the library by clicking scenes, nice soft 3 seconds, maybe 3 seconds is too long, but it's a fade. We get our transition that way. And if we're staying within one scene and just manipulating our sources, we don't get those nice transitions. So hopefully now you're off to the races and creating your first few scenes. See you in the next lesson.